our theme this morning is Illuminations. Keith and Debbie Smith were the quintessential New York couple, great careers, madly in love, and living the high life. But tragedy struck when Debbie developed acute leukemia and died 17 months later, at the age of 37. An artist by profession, Keith had not painted for 2 years after Debbie's diagnosis. But because of a series of illuminating and life-affirming dreams following her death, he picked up his brushes and started to paint his grief. The results were his book, Mourning Sickness, The Art of Grieving, and a whole new direction for his life. Keith, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for inviting me, Kimberly.
You were a successful painter. You had stopped for several years. What got you back painting again?
I just found that the artwork that I was doing was so me-oriented and about my dreams and ambitions in life that when Debbie became sick, it just seemed meaningless and like a trivial pursuit. And after she died, I still didn't start immediately, but I had these illuminating dreams where she came to me and talked to me and essentially told me that she was okay, that I couldn't go where she was going, and that was important because at the beginning I wanted to follow her right into the grave. And the third thing was like, get back to work, get back to life.
And that actually, you said, came through not necessarily your dreams, but friends were having dreams that Debbie was speaking through them.
Yeah, I was a tough sell. I had these dreams, and I really hadn't been jump-started into action, but when a friend of ours called me and said that he'd had a dream, and Debbie had a message to give to me, and it was to start painting. When that happened, I said, okay.
You said, okay.
I get the message. I'll do it.
Now, and also, you called your writings and your paintings, which became your book, you called them illuminated manuscripts. Why illuminated manuscripts?
Well, in Gothic times, an illuminated manuscript is a personal prayer book that on one page would have a painting, usually with gold leaf or silver leaf decorations in it, and the other side a psalm or a prayer or a piece of scripture. And I thought of this book in that way. The images illuminated the text and the poems that I was writing at the time. And so it seemed like that Gothic old way of working where I was opening up and letting things come through me and to me.
And speaking of poetry, you had never written poetry before, never written poems, never even thought about it. So where did that inspiration come from?
All of a sudden, I felt really moved to do this. And they came almost like automatic writing. They would pour out of me, and sometimes 2 and 3 at a time, following a theme. So it was an extraordinary experience and unexpected, totally unexpected.
And how did your paintings change from before Debbie had died to, I know they were very different. Describe what your work was like then and what it's like now, and we have one here, and you could talk a little bit about this one.
Well, my paintings prior to Debbie's death were very colorful, all primary colors, reds, yellows, greens, full intensity. And when Debbie died, as I said before, this felt totally meaningless to me. And when I started painting again, I didn't use any color. I went totally to black and white, and somehow that seemed to fit the way I was feeling. There was no color in my life at that time.
Were you shocked by what you were creating?
Yeah, I actually hid it for a while. I wouldn't let my friends see it, and then finally when I let them in, they'd go, "Oh my goodness, what's happening to you? This is a big change." And but they were also very supportive of it.
Talk about this one's called The Backpack.
This was one of the last paintings I did, and it was about kind of climbing out of grief. And it's how the grief felt like a backpack that was just loaded with stones, and I was climbing this mountain. And then the hand of God reached down and started to take stones out.
Yeah, I love that. The hand there reaching down to pick a stone out.
And this is the new life that's waiting for me. It took me 3 years to do this body of work and to write it and then finally get it published. And at the end of that time, I met Ginny, and I opened myself to a new life and new possibilities.
And you have a new wife and kids. You have
Yes.
two daughters.
I have Chloe and Talia. Chloe is 7. She's going to be 8 in just a week. And Talia, who also just turned 11. The idea of having children in my earlier life would have scared me, as the responsibility and the changing of my lifestyle. After I went through Debbie's death, went through the process of making this book and all the paintings that were involved, I just felt, what the heck? Open up. Let everything in. New love, new life. Take chances and embrace life.
The subtitle of your book is The Art of Grieving. Is there really an art to grieving?
Well, for me, my method was creativity. I found that through painting and writing poetry and doing the text that connected those poems, I connected with God. And I think it doesn't have to be paintings and poems, though. I think that anybody could benefit from opening themselves to the creative act, whether it's gardening or knitting or building something. In a way, creativity is the opposite of death. And for me, it was the antidote for my grief.
Thank you so much, Keith, for coming in and sharing your personal story. And I love the book, and I told you one of my favorite poems in here is The Coming and Going. And it certainly moved me to tears. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing. If you'd like more information on Keith's book and his bereavement counseling, please go to our New Morning website at faithstreams.com.